Qin Shi Huang, the very first emperor in Chinese history, the creator of China's Imperial age, was from the state of Qin, which lays on the outskirts of what the Warring States era Chinese considered the civilized world. The Qin were semi-barbarians by the Warring States era standards. The Qin lived in a dangerous world between Xiongnu nomads and the Warring States. This meant military might was needed for survival. They adopted every innovation they came across: siege weapons, iron swords, crossbows, sitting on horse rather than riding in chariots behind them. The Qin adopted all of these and add their own innovations too. Rather than being a feudal state with lords, the Qin created a highly centralized state. Strict laws now regulated trade and reinforced by harsh punishments. The entire population was registered with the government, and now peasants paid taxes and contributed labor and military service directly to the state rather than to their local lord. Every household in the state was grouped in 5s or 10s, and each group was held responsible for the actions of their members. Soldiers of the same group were punished as a group if an individual was cowardly. Disciplined, drilled, armored, and armed with swords and crossbows, the new armies of the Qin were ready to go take on their chariots riding enemies. King Zheng is normally given credit for conquering all of China and creating the first Chinese empire. However, he owed a lot to his great-great-grandfather King Huiwen of Qin, who reigned around 311 to 338 BC. He cleverly shifted his focus off the drama of the Warring States and to the weaker yet rich states to the southwest, including the before-mentioned state of Shu. There, over the Qinling Mountains, lay a land of silk and money. The central plain of Sichuan has been continuously farmed for more than 3,000 years. Because of its rich soil and benign climate, the Chinese call it Tianfu, the heavenly kingdom. This was Sichuan, today China's fourth most populous province. The Warring State paid little attention to the isolated Sichuan kingdoms of Shu and Ba. They saw them as barbarians. King Huiwen saw them as an opportunity. But getting there remained a challenge. According to a much later and pretty hilarious account, he came up with a fairly cunning plan. He had 5 stone cows sculpted to perfection, with gold spattered around their tails and back legs. Then they were placed out in the field where the envoys of the Shu could see them. The Shu king, obviously excited about the idea of these infinitely gold-pooping cows, asked for them as a gift. But getting these gifts around the impassable mountains would be impossible until King Huiwen offered to build the road. This stone cattle road does actually have some archaeological evidence. It's probably the earliest mountain highway in China. Qing engineers made the mountains crossable by building gallery roads. What is a gallery road, you may ask? This terrifying thing is a gallery road. They bored holes into the mountainside and then plugged them with wooden planks. They made these things large enough to accommodate chariots and horses and carriages and stone cows. Along these sky death roads, as historians call them, the stone cows were brought to the king of Shu. An unexpected extra was the thousands of Qing soldiers and war wagons that came in behind them. In 316 BCE, with soldiers now pouring across the new road, the kingdom of Shu and Ba fell, and Sichuan now belonged to the Qing. This really was a land of silk and money. Sichuan had huge silk supplies and massive amounts of mineral wealth. Mined Sichuan copper was minted in the Qing coins and made them filthy rich. All hyped up on Sichuan steroids, the Qing could steamroll over the other warring states. So when the young King Zheng came of age, in 238 BCE, he already possessed half of his future empire. He just had to finish it off. And by 221 BCE, he had wiped out all of the other warring states. With China under his rule, he adopted the title Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of Qin. The Qing dynasty had now begun, and the emperor set about turning China from a bunch of feudal kingdoms into a united empire. With the help of Li Si, the new chief minister, everything was standardized. Law standardized, weights and measurements standardized, the length of chariots, carts, roads, swords, walls, tools, all standardized. It was like a giant East Asian IKEA. The mining, winemaking, and the salt industry were all brought on their state control. This was all done to form China into a single cohesive unit. Li Si went about creating a government where people were promoted based on merit rather than birth, which made it extremely efficient. He had the weapon of the warring states melted down into giant statues so that no one would get any ideas about whether they could challenge this new state, which is some Game of Thrones type stuff. Qing copper coins became the empire's standard currency. Their design, circular with a square hole in the middle, would last more than 2,000 years. People across China were using the writing system developed under the Shang, but in different regions, people were using different characters. It was making communication difficult, and it was messing with the empire's taxes, which just simply wouldn't do. The emperor had each and every character, you guessed it, standardized. This new small seal script created a written language that was common throughout the empire, regardless of the variety of spoken dialect. Without this standardization, Chinese lawmakers today would probably need about the same amount of translators as the European Union.